Alrighty. So I wanted to first start out by saying happy Friday. It is March 20th. Sorry, it's a little bright behind me. Let me close this. There we go. You can see me. Oh, no, still not good. Okay, there we go. So again, good morning. Today is March 20th. I wanted to give a couple shout outs. First off, happy 11th birthday, Ryder. I wish that we could be celebrating with you, but we still wish you a happy birthday. If you guys connect with Ryder in any way, go ahead and wish him a happy birthday. Also, happy birthday to Mrs. Salisay. I got to text her this morning, and I don't know if she watches our stream as well, but happy birthday to her as well. Because I closed that, it's a little dark in here now. 1 second, guys. Okay. There we go. All right, so yesterday I read a couple chapters. We learned about this lab that the rats were in called Nihm. So we learned about Justin. We learned a little bit about Jenner. We also learned about Nicodemus. And we learned about how they were in this control group A. And that was potentially a group where the rats were a little bit smarter based on the injections they were getting. So now we're going to start with this new chapter called A Lesson in Reading. And we know that the rats know how to read. We know that Mrs. Frisby's husband also knows how to read. So I am interested to find out. It's actually been a while since I read this book all the way through. So I'm kind of rediscovering this as I read with you guys. So this is exciting for me as well. All right, a lesson in reading. Of course, Justin did not escape that day, nor even that year. When they, Julie, put on a glove and went to pick him up, he submitted meekly enough. And in a short time, he was back in the cage. Yet he had learned some things. He had, as Julie noticed, examined the air ducts. Mainly, he had learned that he could, occasionally at least, jump from his cage and wander around without incurring any anger or injury. Hi, Charlotte. Glad you found it. All of this eventually was important, for it was Justin, along with Jenner, who finally figured out how to get away. I had a part in it too, but all that came later. I won't go into details about the rest of our training, except for one part of it that was the most useful of all. But in general, during the months that followed, two things were happening. First, we were learning more than any rats ever had before, and we're becoming more intelligent than any rats had ever been. The second thing could be considered, from some points of view, even more important, and certainly more astonishing than the first. Dr. Schultz, you will recall, had said that the new series of injections might increase our lifespan by double or more. I want you guys to find out for me what the typical lifespan of a rat is, because now we're finding out these injections might double their lives, if not more. Yet, even he was not prepared for what had happened. Perhaps it was the odd combination of both types of injections working together. I don't know, and neither did he. But the result was that, as far as he could detect in the A group, the aging process seemed to stop almost completely. For example, during the years we were in the laboratory, most of the rats in the control group grew old and sickly and finally died. So did those in group B. For though they were getting injections too, the formula was not the same as ours. But among the 20 of us in the A group, no one could see any signs that we were growing older at all. Apparently, though we seldom saw them, the same thing was happening with the G group, the mice who were getting the same injections we were. Dr. Schultz was greatly excited about this. The short lifespan had always been a prime limiting factor in education, he told George and Julie. If we can double it and speed up the learning process at the same time, the possibilities are enormous. Thanks for finding that out, Charlotte. They apparently live up to 2 years or even just 1. So now we're finding out they might not die at all. We happen to know, guys, that Justin, as Mrs. Frisby described, is kind of a younger rat, and we're not really sure how long ago they were in this lab. So the fact that he is still a younger rat and we know all of this happened That's interesting to me too. Double it. Even now, years later, years after the injections were stopped, we seem scarcely any older than we were then. We could not detect either of these things ourselves. That is, we didn't feel any different. And since we had no contact with the other groups, we had no basis for comparison. All we had to go by was what Dr. Schultz had said. He and the others were preparing a research paper about us to be published in some scientific journal. So each morning, he dictated the results of the previous day's tests into a tape recorder. We heard all of it. Though there was a lot of technical stuff we couldn't understand, especially at first. Until the paper was published, he kept reminding George and Julie of this. The whole experiment was to be kept secret. The one important phase of training began one day after weeks of really hard work at the shape recognition that I mentioned before. But this was different. For the first time, they used sounds along with the shapes and pictures, real pictures that we could recognize. For example, one of the first and simplest of these exercises was a picture, a clear photograph of a rat. I suppose they felt sure we could know what that was. This picture was shown on a screen with a light behind it. Then, after I had looked at the picture and recognized it, a shape flashed on the screen under it, a sort of half circle and two straight lines, not like anything I had seen before. Then the voice began. Hi, Addie. R, R, R. And it's not the letter R, it's A-R-E that they're saying. It was Julie's voice, speaking very clearly, but it had a tinny sound. It was a record. After repeating R a dozen times or so, that particular shape disappeared, and another one came on the screen, still under the picture of the rat. It was a triangle with legs on it, and Julie's voice began. I don't know how to say this one. Aie, aie, aie. This one is A-I-E-E, so I might be pronouncing that a little bit off. When that shape disappeared, a third one came on the screen. This one was a cross. Julie's voice said, T, T, T. And they're spelling that T-E-A, like have a cup of tea. Then all three shapes appeared at once. And the record said, R-I-E, T, rat. You will have already recognized what was going on. They were teaching us to read. The symbols under the picture were the letters R, A, T. But the idea did not become clear to me, nor any of us, for quite a long time, because of course, we didn't know what reading was. Just so you guys know, anyone that's coming on a little bit late, you can always start this video over to see from the beginning, okay? I just want to make sure you know you don't have to miss any of the reading. Oh, we learned to recognize the shapes easily, though. And when I saw the rat picture, I knew straight away what symbols would appear beneath it. In the same way, when the picture showed a cat, I knew the same shapes would appear, except the first one would be a half circle. Think about the letters, half circle. And Julie's voice would repeat C, C, C. And they're spelling that the word C like I can see you, S-E-E, but we're noticing that she's sounding out the letters. So, hold on one second. I even learned that when the photograph showed not one but several rats, a fourth shape would appear under it, a snaky line. And the sound with that one was S, S, S. But as to what all of this was for, none of us had any inkling. It was Jenner who finally figured it out. By this time, we had developed a sort of system of communication. A simple enough thing, just passing spoken messages from one cage to the next, like passing notes in school. Justin, who was still next to me, called to me one day. Message for Nicodemus from Jenner. He says, important. All right, I said. What's the message? Look at the shapes on the wall next to the door. He says to look carefully. My cage, like Jenner's and those of the rest of the Group A, was close enough to the door so I could see what he meant. Near the doorway, there was a large square piece of white cardboard fastened to the wall, a sign. It was covered with an assortment of black markings to which I had never paid any attention, though they had been there ever since we arrived. Now, for the first time, I looked at them carefully, and I grasped that what Jenner had discovered. The top line of black marks on the wall were instantly familiar. R-A-T-S. As soon as I saw them, I thought of the picture that went with them. And as soon as I did that, that's what reading is, using symbols to suggest a picture or an idea. From that time on, it gradually became clear to me what all these lessons were for. And once I understood the idea, I was eager to learn more. I could scarcely wait for the next lesson and the next. The whole concept of reading was, to me at least, fascinating. I remember how proud I was when months later I was able to read and understand that whole sign. I read it hundreds of times, and I'll never forget it. Rats may not be removed from the laboratory without written permission. And at the bottom in smaller letters, the word Nihm. Give me one second. Okay. I want to let you guys know that the message that they're reading right now is in all capital letters. And this is, again, above the door in this laboratory. So it's kind of interesting seeing how the rats are able to read it now. And it's kind of giving me a little bit of an idea of how they might get out of there at one point, and maybe that's the purpose. I don't know. I would like to hear what you guys are thinking about it as well. But then a puzzling thing came up. A thing we're still not sure about even now. Apparently, Dr. Schultz, who was running the lessons, didn't realize how well they were succeeding. He continued the training with new words and new pictures every day. But the fact is, once we had grasped the idea and learned the different sounds each letter stood for, we leaped way ahead of him. I remember well, during one of the lessons, looking at a picture of a tree. Under it, the letters flashed on, T-R-E-E. But in the photograph, though the tree was in the foreground, there was a building in the background, and a sign near it. I scarcely glanced at T-R-E-E, but concentrated instead on reading the sign. It said, Nihm, private parking by permit only, reserved for doctors and staff, no visitors parking. The building behind it, tall and white, looked very much like the building we were in. I'm sure Dr. Schultz had plans for testing our reading ability. I could even guess from the words he was teaching us what the tests were going to be like. For example, he taught us left, right, door, food, open, and so on. It wasn't hard to imagine the test. I would be placed in one chamber, my food in another. There would be 2 doors and a sign saying, for food, open door at right, or something like that. Then, if all of us moved unerringly toward the proper door, he would know we understood the sign. As I said, I'm sure he planned to do this, but apparently he didn't think we were ready for it. I think maybe even he was a little afraid to try it, because if he did it too soon, or if for any other reason it didn't work, his experiment would be a failure. He wanted to be sure, and his caution was his undoing. Justin announced one evening around the partition, I'm going to get out of my cage tonight and wander around a bit. How can you? It's locked. Yes, but did you notice along the bottom edge, there's a printed strip? I hadn't noticed it. I should perhaps explain that when Dr. Schultz and the others opened our cages, we could never quite see how they did it. They manipulated something under the plastic floor, something we couldn't see. What does it say? I've been trying to read it the last 3 times they brought me back from training. It's very small print, but I think I've finally made it out. It says, to release door, pull knob forward and slide right. Knob. Under the floor, about an inch back, there's a metal thing just in front of the shelf. I think that's the knob, and I think I can reach it through the wire. Anyway, I'm going to try. Now? Not until they close up. Closing up was a ritual Dr. Schultz, George, and Julie went through each night. For about an hour, they sat at their desks, wrote notes in books, filed papers in cabinets, and finally locked the cabinets. Then they checked all the cages, dimmed the lights, locked the doors, and went home, leaving us alone in the still laboratory. About half an hour after they left that night, Justin said, I'm going to try now. I heard a scuffing noise, a click and scrape of metal, and in a matter of seconds, I saw his door swing open. It was as simple as that, when you could read. Wait, I said, what's the matter? If you jump down, you won't be able to get back in. Then they'll know. I thought of that. I'm not going to jump down. I'm going to climb up the outside of the cage. It's easy. I've climbed up the inside 1,000 times. Above these cages, there's another shelf, and it's empty. I want you guys to see. So this is showing Justin breaking out of his cage. And because he can now read, he knows exactly how to open this cage. And we've got Nicodemus kind of cautioning him. I'm going to walk along there and see what I can see. I think there's a way to climb to the floor and up again. Why don't I go with you? My door would open the same way as his. Better not this time, don't you think? If something goes wrong and I can't get back, they'll say it's just A9 again. But if 2 of us are found outside, they'll take it seriously. They might put new locks on the cages. He was right. And you can see that already we both have the same idea in mind, that this might be the first step toward escape for all of us. I'm actually going to stop right there today, especially because that was a longer chapter. So I want you guys to be thinking about what's going to happen next. We obviously know at one point they got out. We don't know if it was an escape or if they were actually just released. So I want you guys to be thinking about that. And we're actually over halfway through the book. So this is what is left. Ooh, I could probably come up with a good math problem for that one. So go ahead and type in your predictions. You can even share your favorite part of the book, comment on each other's predictions, or even their favorite parts. I'm curious to know what you guys are reading at home as well. I also want you to know that we'll probably be finishing this book in the next week, maybe 2 weeks. And right now they're working on getting you guys the accessibility to take AR quizzes from home. So you will be able to take an AR quiz on Frisby and the Rats of Nihm when we're done. And I actually already found a new read aloud that I haven't read before, but it was recommended at Barnes & Noble. So I will be continuing this a little bit later. And it looks like my connection is kind of going off. So with that, I'm going to close for right now. Again, happy birthday, Ryder. Happy birthday, Mrs. Salisay. I hope you guys have a great day. Please make sure that you're continuing working hard. We're just about to the weekend, so you get a break Saturday, Sunday, but continue working really hard. If you guys have any questions or need any resources at home for learning, let me know. If you need a lesson retaught, I'm happy to record a lesson or even just kind of doing step-by-step things with you guys. I'm going to be working on getting morning meetings going for us, and I'll have a more consistent read aloud time. That way you guys can tune in at a specific time each day. With that, please make sure that you're checking out Flipgrid. I actually posted 2 Flipgrids today, a fun one with some of the ideas you guys came up with, and then another math talk that is similar to yesterday's. But I want you guys to make sure that you're thinking about all the steps that you need to take. All right, guys, have a fantastic day. I miss you. Keep working hard, and I'll hopefully see you all soon. Bye.